Hi, and welcome to a Small Medium at Large podcast. I'm your host, Gail Heisen, bringing you intimate interviews beyond normal boundaries. I want to thank my daughter Nancy and my son Richard for posting, producing, and making a Small Medium at Large available to all your listeners. I also want to thank you, listeners, for sharing, liking, subscribing, and most importantly, I love your comments. We have such wonderful comments from all of you, and I'm making friends all over the world. So, a shout out to my friends in England, my friends in Spain, my friends in Israel, my friends in Bulgaria. So, hi to all of you, and thanks for standing by and being such great fans. So, let me tell you a little bit about our guest, Susan Shatzer. Susan Shatzer is an energetic empowerment expert who serves and supports humanity in removing all locks and blocks that stop and hold them back so they can live their lives they've dreamed about. Susan is the executive producer and host of the Webby nominated global TV series Unlocking Your Limitless Life. She has 14 number one best selling books, and her energetic gifts were warmly received at the Academy Awards last year. She is a featured expert in the upcoming movie Pillars of Power, the hidden secret behind achieving greatness, which has been slated for international release. It is produced by the Los Angeles Tribune Film Division, and the documentary challenges conventional models of success. Illuminating the path to achieving greatness, Pillars of Power fuses the timeless wisdom of spirituality with the actionable principles of leadership and scientific understanding. Pillars of Power reveals how the integration of these diverse and complementary pillars lead to transformative change in the life areas of money, health, relationships, mental wellness, and spirituality. It is a goal for them to inspire a new generation of leaders and change makers who recognize that the secret to extraordinary success lies in the holistic integration of mind, body, and spirit, grounded in both ancient wisdom and modern science. Today, Susan Shatzer will be talking about instant healing done differently. So let's welcome Susan here today. Hi, Susan.
Oh, hi. It's so good to see you here. And thank you so much for having me. It's
Oh,
my honor to be with you and your audience.
it's just a pleasure to have your shiny face here today. And I do have some questions here, but I always start off with my base question for every guest. And then we can dive into all our topics and other questions. But I always like to know what your life was as a child growing up, and if anything in your family life or family members inspired you in any way to head down the path of spirituality you are on, or was there a pivotal moment or experience that you can remember when this happened then or later in life as an adult? But there's a moment you might be able to share a story with us about that put you on this particular path.
Oh, that was a mouthful. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm playing Jeopardy. Like,
Okay, that's good.
Gail, I'll take interesting point of view for 500.
Okay. Childhood events.
Okay, childhood events. So I live in Florida. I'm originally from Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, a very rural, very, back road, kind of area. And when we were growing up, I'm a Gen Xer, it was like they open the door in the morning. Okay, kids, have fun. We'll see you when the street lights come on. Or my mom would ring a bell. It's dinner time.
Nice.
You would just like hear it intuitively and you would know. And we had the flags on the back of our bikes and we would, use the clothespins and put like the baseball cards, on our wheels. And we would take the straws and slit them open and, put them on our spikes, our spindles. I mean, that was the 80s, growing up in 70s and 60s. So when I grew up, I had a very interesting birth. So my mom's water broke at August 22nd, and I wasn't born until September 8th. So
Wow.
I know, interesting, right? So my whole life, I was brought up with, well, if anyone's going to be late, it's going to be Susan. She was late to her birth. So I was. So I was like, okay, Susan's late. So I was just late everywhere, wherever I went all the time. It just became a thing. Well, then as I got older, I moved to Florida. I got hired as a Walt Disney World dancer. And I was brought up with Catholicism. So everything was pretty much locked down that would be energy, um, and and paranormal and out of the ordinary, invisible, hidden, that kind of stuff. So when I got down here to Florida, my angelic, guide, she like tapped me on the shoulder and she said, do the math on that. I was like, oh, okay. So I got my calendar out, Gail, and I went August 22nd, September 8th. That's 18 days. 18 days.
Shocked because they usually do an immediate cesarean. They don't let women go that long after water has broken. I wonder, your mother must have been a powerful one to tell them no.
No, it's different than that. So 1968, when I go to be born. Now, Massachusetts is pretty forward with their, I mean, we've got Harvard, we've got Boston Hospital, we've got Cambridge, MIT, like we've got it going on up there. So when I realized it was 18 days, I turned to my dad, who's 83 this year, and I said, Dad, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, did you know that was 18 days? He's like, of course not. I'm like, how did you not know that that was 18 days? He goes, because we didn't track that stuff back then. Like, we didn't do any of that stuff that you women do now with this. He's, you know, 32 months old. Like, what is that? You don't do that what you do. I was like, well, what did you do? He goes, well, I took your mom to the doctor. And I'm like, well, what did he say? He's so get this, gal, are you sitting down? So this is what he says. He says to my dad, look, every day when you get home from work, take your wife on a bumpy road. We'll get that baby out. That was the medical advice. Take your wife on a bumpy road. So every day my dad would pack my mom and they would go on these crazy bumpy roads in Western Mass. Didn't work. A week later, I'm like, what did you do? He goes, I took your mom back. I was like, well, that didn't work, doctor. What else you got? The doctor like turned to my mother, was like, do you like to drink? My mother was like, I'm Italian, I'll have a glass of wine. He goes, I think you should start drinking because you're holding on to that baby. So my mom wasn't a drinker, but it was something that I had to figure out what happened. So
Mhm.
18 days. And I asked, I'm like, so was I just like stuck in the birth canal? Was I hanging out? Was all the blood rushing to my head? Like, was there still, fluid? Like, was I drying out? Was I getting a shower every day? Like, what was going on? And Gail, time stopped. I could see every particle in the room, and this lucid dream screen drops down. And I'm in heaven with God, and I'm arguing with him. I'm like, oh, I know the rules up here and I'm not going. Nope, I am tapping out. This lifetime is way too difficult. It's filled with heartache, betrayal, illness, disease, like, and it went on and on and on. And I said, look, there's got to be somebody else more qualified up here. He says, no, Susan, it has to be you. And I said, well, look, if it has to be me, I'll go in 100 years. Earth will be a nicer place. Humans will get along better. I'll go in 100, I'll give them a century, 100 years, give or take a few. He's like, no, it had, and I started like whining like a child, like, why? Why does it have to be me? How come? So he opens his arms like this and he said, look here. And as I looked in, it was like all these twinkling lights were in there. I was like, oh, what's that? He goes, those are all the souls waiting for you to get to Earth. So you can help them on their soul's evolution, which is why we incarnate. I was like, oh. And I took my first breath.
Wow, that's really, I'm really glad I asked you your child story here. That's a powerful entrance. And
Yep.
then so once you felt calm with that, did she go into labor then after you had that? And she went into labor and had a no problems birth. and none of the craziness they tell you about infections and all these things that are going to happen to the child if you don't give birth, if after the water is broke, you got to deliver within 24 hours and blah, blah, blah. That's a great story, and also great for any of the women that are out there that have not had a child yet or have been told these crazy things about how you have to immediately have a cesarean. I'm just saying, and my hat's off to your mother.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, they didn't even suggest that back then. Like now, when your water breaks, you're getting a baby in 24 hours. Like you're going
Exactly.
into labor, they're going to induce you, or you're having a cesarean, but you're getting a baby. Like,
So there was your first beginning. And then did you not really, then you're born and it sounds like you had a nice family life. It wasn't like traumatizing or any of these kind of things.
nope.
And when did you then, like, I don't know what your career was or what you were doing before you went on this path, but I was wondering where, I know that's where the seed began. Then where did the action start?
Yeah. So when I came in, I didn't have the veil. So I could see I was mission ready.
Hmm.
Like when I gave birth, I mean, when I took my first breath, it was like boots on the ground in the body, like full on 3D. So I could see the unseen, hear the unheard, and I knew the unknown.
Wow.
So with my family, there was three homes. There was my grandmother's home, my aunt's home, my aunt, my uncle, and they lived four houses down from me. So I grew up with my cousins. And then we lived there. Well, we had the same photograph of all of our ancestors. It was like the same picture got duplicated. And then we had them up in different frames in different places in each of our homes. So there was one holiday, I should say, when we got together for holidays, we would talk about, you know, how you reminisce about the good old days. Oh, remember when Uncle Joe did this funny thing? And remember when Aunt Sharon like dropped the bottle, just that kind of stuff. Well, when you would talk about them, their consciousness would show up and they'd hang out by their pictures. So every holiday, wherever we were, I would see my great grandfather, my great grandmother, my great aunt, they'd all be hanging out by their pictures. And they would be in a little loop of like a little, like it would be a meme today, like 3 or 4 seconds, but it would be a little bit longer, but they'd be in the clothing of their, time period and they'd be in a loop for themselves. So I'm at my aunt's house and it's one holiday and my great grandfather is having a total come apart, Gail. Like he's struggling. So I get up off the couch, I walk over and I'm like, no, new Josh. I'm like, what's going on? And he was snapping his pocket watch, sticking it in the pocket, had his cane, was pacing back and forth, the tails, the top hat, the whole thing. He said, where is Nona Betta, which is his wife, my great grandmother? And I said, I don't know, let me check. So I just leaned back because there was a curio cabinet between them. Each picture was on each side, and her picture wasn't there. So I turned to my aunt and I said, where's Nona Betta's picture? And she said, oh, it fell off the wall and it's at a repair place. And these were like the heavy, thick gold antique frames. So it's not like we could just like get to Hobby Lobby and like, Elmer's glue this thing. Like, they were going to take like gold filigree to like patch up the cracks and everything. So I said, oh, she's probably just with her picture. I said, but I know you're ready to eat because you were looking for her to have dinner. I go, why don't you just come eat with us? So he's like, okay, who are you? And I'm like, I'm your great granddaughter. He goes, oh, it's nice to meet you. So he starts following me. So I turn around and my mother is like right here. What are you doing? I'm like, no, I invited Nonu Josh to have dinner with us. And she's like, yeah, might not want to tell people about that. So I grew up with Catholicism. And
And you're
I was,
supposed to hide any of those spiritual visions or things like this. The reason I ask you that is because this is such a common thing I've had with guests who've been raised in a Christian situation. And in fact, there was a time when I was called Dr. Gale, where at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, people who were having things where they couldn't figure it out, they'd be sent to me and I would email them back. And I would always often find that they forgot that their grandmother or someone in the family was a very spiritual person or had showed different gifts that they had, but because of religion, everything got buried. And so then when it resurfaces in a young child, in this one incident, it was a child who kept having this hairbrush appear. And the child felt very attached with this hairbrush, and it turned out it had been her grandmother's. And so there was this whole connection. And then the parent realized that they needed to let the child have the experience of connecting. And just from a couple of emails, and they realized that, oh, yes, that was, we can let that go and let her have that experience. So it's very important to share this for some of the parents who don't, some of the parents, you have to understand, if they've never had any experiences like this and their child comes in and says, I just saw grandma and I invited her to eat here, some of them freak out at this kind of thing. But with doing shows like this with people like you and myself, we can at least then let other people know that this is real. This is not some story we made up because we were kids. It's such important work.
Do
Uh,
do you know how it happens?
no,
Would you like to know, Gail?
yes.
So I have been tasked with creating conscious education for humanity on the planet. So when babies are born and pets, and they'll like look up at the wall and they'll start giggling or kicking, and the dog or the cat, they'll like follow something else, but nothing's there.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they're actually reading energy, speaking energy, connecting with the energy of things. And then we start to indoctrinate them into our form, structure, and significance of this reality. So we start teaching our kids colors first. So
Mhm.
you're telling children, this is black, this is gold, this is yellow, right? Basically, you're saying to the kids, this frequency, this energy is black. This
Uh,
energy is gold. And this energy is yellow. Repetition, repetition, Gail creates a neural pathway.
mhm.
Pretty soon, they don't see the energy any longer. They just see the color. And then you're taught, this is the large crayon box. What was it? 164 colors. That's it. If the color's not in the box, it's not a color. Guess what we would get at Christmas and Valentine's and birthdays? You'd get the big box with the little sharpener in the back, the whole thing. Like if we didn't have it, I saw our friend had it, someone had it. And what that taught us was, if it's not in the box, it's not a color, it doesn't exist. If it's not in the box, it doesn't have a name, doesn't have a color, doesn't have a name, therefore it doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, then it's invisible. If it's invisible, it's not real. If it's not real, it's not true. So there we get our box. And guess who is the one who tries their hardest to stay out of the box? The 2-year-olds. And do you know what 3-letter question they ask us, Gail? The adults?
I'm ready to hear it.
Why?
Mhm.
Why? 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 Our 2-year-olds are not fully indoctrinated into the matrix yet. And they know, they can see, they can sense, they can feel, they're aware that there's a different possibility available to the adults, but the adults aren't choosing it. And they want to know why. Why can't I wear my princess costume to school? Why can't I wear my Spider-Man outfit to church? Because they know that it would create something greater. But no, because I said so, because we don't do that, because I'm the adult, because I'm the parent, because I'm older than you, because that's not how we do it here. And we shut them down. We shut our 2-year-olds down.
That's why I've always thought when they say, oh, it's the terrible twos. I never thought it was the terrible twos. It was the most active time when you could see them going from, they're entering into this material world and they're leaving this really amazing spiritual kind of angelic place that they've come from. So it has to be a very confusing time for them and very questioning. And so I always thought that term terrible twos was not the correct thing. It's really inquisitive twos or opening up twos, or, that's what, but not terrible.
I love it. I love what you're saying because literally that's what it is. That's what's been happening. And what is showing up is like our parents today. So I was married and had a son, and then his dad left before my son was 2, and it was the greatest gift he gave
As
us.
I read in your information, you had some kind of a very difficult illness, and I was wondering what that was, and was the illness what made the husband leave because he didn't want to deal with it, or I wasn't sure how you were presented a difficult set of situation.
Yeah. So it was the one thing that he could not handle. I mean, he wouldn't take an aspirin, he wouldn't go to the doctor, he didn't go to the dentist, like, he just was like an anti-medical person. So, what do I go create? I go because we create our own reality. I create a chronic illness that's autoimmune, that there's no cure for, that you can't get better from, that's progressive. I
Yeah.
nailed I nailed it. Academy Award, please. So it was this like whole life shattering experience for him. So it was something he couldn't handle, but it was the greatest gift that he gave us because, he could have continued to lie, cheat, and like do all that other hidden credit card stuff. But no, he was like, I'm done, and left. And that was the greatest gift because he didn't continue it on. And because we were projected on by Catholicism, both sides, his side and my side, it was like till death do you part, and in sickness and in health, and where are you going, and how can you abandon her and your son, and all that kind of stuff. But in asking a question like what was right about that I wasn't getting, do you know what I got?
What?
I could parent the way I truly knew that I would like to parent, conscious parenting. And I would not have been able to do that if he was a part of our life.
Mhm.
So he knows to this day how grateful and thankful I am for him for making that break because it was cut and go. It was nice. It was
And
clean.
your health now, are you all okay? Is everything okay? Because you look vibrant and beautiful and very alive here.
Yeah, I'm sort of a mystery. So I do 3 MRIs every year, the brain, the cervical, and the thoracic, because that's where the lesions show up. And Gail, the neuroradiologist, like, he can't even count all the lesions on my brain. He just writes, "She has more than 20 lesions." Like
Oh my
like,
God.
these are the white matter, like, I don't know how many I have because 'cause they've never been able to count them all. He's like, "She has more than 20 lesions." And then for the cervical and the thoracic, like, on my spine, like, I have 1 or 2 on every single vertebrae, and when you read the results, it's like excessive damage, excessive damage, excessive damage. Yeah, and then here I can walk and talk and, take care of myself and drive, and, I run a business and I'm helping people, heal themselves, and
That,
yeah.
that's I'm blown away to hear this, and I'm so happy that you're not suffering in any kind of pain or anything that's debilitating you. In fact, you're the exact opposite of that when I see you on the screen for those of you who are just listening on Spotify or somewhere. So let me tell you that. So
They
I'm
were asking me like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I brush my teeth with my left hand. I'm creating new neural I'm rewiring my brain. I'm tying my shoes. I'm putting my left leg in first."
that
Oh, I just got rid of all of my points of view about things.
this is I'm just so happy to hear this. I um I have one more question before we go into the discussion of done differently energy, which I'm very interested in hearing about this. Um, I would like to find out. one thing that I watched and I wanted to know if you felt, if you have, if we have the time, we do got plenty of time. You have had a successful Webby nominated TV episode, which I watched and our listeners can find on your website. Can you tell us about that show, who your guest was, and what the experience was like interviewing this man who channels other beings?
Yeah, I would be more than happy to.
Okay.
So actually two episodes were Webby nominated um, for the global TV series. The first one you're speaking of, his name is Kevin Briggs, and
Yes.
he lives here in Florida. And I had to interview him because we met, it was one of those things where when I get a yes, it's a yes. And when I get a no, it's a no. I don't need to know why, how come, when, where. No. When I ask, will this create the most benevolent outcome? I get a yes, I go. I do what I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm told to do, whatever it is. I don't need to know who's sending me, how come.
Hmm.
So I've been invited to this. It was like a UFO um, kind of meeting where people would get together and just talk about their experiences that they've had that they can't explain and they're not sure. And it's just a group kind of gathering. So I had been invited like a couple months in a row, and I got a no, a no, a no. Then all of a sudden, it's a yes. And I'm like, really? I'm like, can it be a no again? I'm like, but let me ask. I'm like, is it in my best interest? Is this like what I've been asking for? And I kept getting yeses. So I'm like, okay, I have to get clothes on now, do my hair, get ready to go. So I get there, I'm late, right? Because I tried to find a no, but I couldn't. I kept getting yeses. So I get in late. So I go in the back, and there were friends there, and that's who what. So I was sitting in the back. Well, Kevin was the one who was talking about how since he was 8 years old, he had two extraterrestrials show up in his bathroom, freaked him out. He was naked in the bathtub in England, and they've been with him ever since. So there's like a whole council that connects with him and works with him and guides him to do certain things at certain times, and wrote a book and all that kind of stuff. So he's in there talking about the Council of Eight, and I can see them there. Like they're in the room with us.
Hmm.
And Kevin said, I don't know if anyone can see him. And he's like, I'm like, I can. He goes, you can? I go, yeah, like there and there and there and there. He's like, yeah. Oh, we got to talk at the break. So at the break, he came running up to me and he was like, how do you do that? How do you see him? Like, I don't know. I just see him. I don't know how you do it, but I just do it. Like, it's just a thing. He's like, okay, cool. So we exchanged numbers. We were talking a lot. And so he started channeling Ort, which is Ort and Dee were the two that originally showed up to him when he was 8 years old. He's had all these amazing experiences with them. So when I met him, I thought, is this ready to be mainstream media? And
Hmm.
he got a yes. So we did the interview and we put it out there, and it was nominated for a Webby Award. The second one was Sherry Lee. She's the toe pro. So she studied in the metaphysical realm, and she can read people's toes. So your
I have
toes,
never heard this one.
yeah, this is a modality.
Right? I've never heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
Palms, yes. Face, yes. Toes, never heard of.
Yes, tea leaves, the whole thing, toes. So we get one of our other guests to go, hey, would you like to get a toe reading? And so like he comes over, takes his shoes off. So we get him ready. So she reads his toes. Oh my, it was eye-opening, like just what the toes were saying about his life, personality, who he was, upbringing, his parental influence. Like there were like, knobs, and I don't even know how to read toes, but I was just standing over it, like looking at what she was saying, girl, just looks like toes to me. But okay. But they were talking to her. So I just thought that was the coolest thing. So that was the second show that was nominated for a Webby Award.
Well, I have to say, I'm glad that you shared that. I didn't see that episode. I was scrolling because I was watching quite a few, and I'll have to go back and look for that one because that's the first time I've ever heard of that. Is that a common use of doing readings, or was this just
She went to school and she just knew so much. So she's an abductee also,
uh,
um, from growing up. And so, that kind of got activated for her through those experiences. So she's been doing that her whole life, really. And it's just amazing what she can tell you about you that no one else knows. Yeah, I've not known of anyone else who is a toe reader, but she's pretty magical with it.
I have to say, this episode will be right before my guest named Matt Hendricks, who will also be speaking about his experiences having been in a coma and nearly died 4 times, and his interactions with beings from interdimensional places. So I feel that behind the show after this will be about talking with someone exactly about those particular things and the paintings and things that he has done, and the incredible resilience this man has because he was left as a paraplegic after this horrific car accident. And his story with the relating of interdimensional beings has a lot to do with his healing and the work that he's doing now. So I feel like a lot of these things are coming out to share, um, and I'm just finding it fascinating. I'm not stating anything here either way, though I have had my own personal experiences as well. So I don't poo-poo any of this. So, uh, have you yourself personally had any of these experiences when you were having him channel, which you see on the show? Did you have anything when you were there and feeling the presence of this other interdimensional being there? Did you feel at peace and relaxed, or did you feel any kind of fears, or how did you feel in that relating with that?
Yeah, so we had done it a couple times ahead of time, and Ort was really big on messing with the electronics. So we had to ask him to like dial down because we had cameras that we needed and audio that we needed to successfully be able to record to do this for Kevin. So he agreed to like, tone it down so it didn't get normally it's very, very hot when Kevin channels. And when I'm in the room with him, like the temperature goes up quite a few degrees. It's very noticeable.
Hmm. So he's emanating a lot of energy, and in that energy, there's heat.
Yes.
Well, I'm working on an experiment with that right now, for a physicist, and I started off doing psychokinesis or telekinesis, and it's a piece of paper that's shielded in this glass jar back there, and with my hands at a distance, I'm able to affect the paper to move and twirl in directions. The whole idea is that scientifically, when it's in that glass, there's nothing being able to interfere with it as far as, wind or, it's kind of sealed.
Yes.
And it took me a few times to finally grasp that I was working with energy, and that that's what I'm trying to do here is with this energy, and that my hands are becoming like communicators. So he sent me another device recently that I haven't been able to affect when I put it under the glass. But when I take the glass away, this one doesn't hang from a string. The other one hangs from a string. So when I move it, I can move it from like 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. And then when then it will have a return turn, that's, kind of natural. With this other one, it's a little piece of metal on the head of a pin, and it's called an energy wheel. And I'm watching as I'm doing this. When I put it in the glass and I can feel the energy coming out of my hands, I can't seem to affect it yet. I haven't given up. I've only been doing this for about, with the metal one, only for about 5 days. But if I take the glass off and I put my hands as I get closer to the wheel, and I even put a mask on my face because I wanted to make sure there was no breath or air coming out of me to because I doubt all these as I do these for scientists. I don't, I can't believe I can do this. But they say you can, and after a while I realize they're right. So now I'm comforted in knowing that yes, I can move an object or piece of paper. I can do this. I'm not I'm confirmed now. I don't have any question about that. But I can't, I haven't figured out exactly about the heat and energy that's coming out of my hands because as I go toward the metal piece, which is not paper, it will start to twirl like this. And if I put my hand really close above it, it's twirling more. And as I extend it out, the twirling will still continue, but not as with as much power. So I don't know if it's static electricity. I don't know if it's emanating heat. I don't know if it's just showing me the physical sight of energy that's invisible. But I'm just letting you and my listeners know that I'm working on this. And when I have more information, I'll share it on the other shows.
Well, I have a suggestion.
Oh, great.
So I have your angelic team here, your galactic team, and your indigenous team. So they'd
Hmm.
like for you to know that every molecule has consciousness. Ask the molecules to move for you.
Oh, actually, that was what I asked when I did my spoon and fork bending. I didn't think about switching it to that. Because when I did spoon and fork bending, I was like, how do they do this? Okay, we're holding up our spoons and all right, okay, let me get mine. For me, I'm looking for how many times I can bend it around. So,
Oh, oh, cool. Yeah.
so do you see how many times I can do that part?
Yeah.
So that's only a two twirl around,
Yeah.
and then the tongs. So then I started with spoons and same thing where I can get the two twirl,
Uh-huh.
but now I'm starting to get a third, like more
Whoa.
of them. And
Yeah.
we did this on one of our shows on my podcast with Donna Rebadow. This one, you can see it's all the way through.
Yes. On top of each other.
Yes, yes. And with that, when I was learning how to do it, I'm watching everybody like, how do you do this? That was my experience, what you're describing. It was like as I'm with that, you're actually touching the spoon or the fork when I took the class.
Yes.
You were rubbing it with your hand.
Yes.
And as I'm rubbing it, all of a sudden I feel the metal turn into molecules and they're
Yes.
jumping around like this. And I'm seeing this visual. And then I
Yes.
hear it bend. Now's the time to bend. And
Yes.
everything was like liquid. The whole metal thing is like liquid.
Yes.
I did not, for this tip alone, I'm going to have to give you some feedback after I go to do this again of turning them into molecules, and I'll see if I get a bigger, more robust result, and I will let you know. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
I had
It's
forgotten.
your team.
So now let's go now to finding out about what we were going to start to talk about now, which is something you said about you've learned a new way about when and how did you find locate the done differently energy, and what does that mean?
Yeah. So I do a lot of work with individuals. So they show me their timeline this way. Like, Gail, I've got your timeline here. You're
Hmm.
showing me. I can go all the way back to when you first chose to be or do anything from source, all the way up till now, and then what you've projected to be into your lifetimes in the future. And then your ancestors are shown to me this way. So I can see 20, 15, 19, 18, up to 20 generations, your ancestors, what they passed down to each other and then down to you. And then on the sides is karma. Your karma is spinning
Hmm.
like a tornado. So, and that's how it shows up. Like our karmas are our tornadoes.
Uh-huh.
So when I'm working with a client, you're Gen X like me too. So when we grew
No,
up,
no, I'm a baby boomer. I was born in 55. I'm gonna
Oh,
be
yeah,
70.
close enough.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be 70 in a week. I think I'm
Really?
a lot younger being born in 68. I was getting ready to go to the Woodstock Festival. 69. So
All right, so you're a little further along than I am.
yes,
But what was I gonna say?
it was
Oh, we were
about a
talking about the
timeline.
energy. Yeah, so the work I do is energetic. So sometimes there's no words for it.
Understand completely.
Just there's not a way to explain. So when I'm working with the teams and we're working with a client in their energy field and we're pulling out unconsciousness that's in their subconscious, everything changes. Well, I get shown a vinyl record. Do you remember the 45s?
Of course, I still have them.
You'd have to put that little insert in.
Still have them.
So that's how my team explains things to me, is by giving me things that I know of already. So that when they're showing me, we're talking about this soul's record, they have their record, it's a 45 for a soul, and they put the needle on, it's playing, and then there's a scratch on the record. I'm like, okay, so truth, what is that? That's when I'm shown the locks, blocks, and stops, emotional trauma, where they've given their power away, and the timestamps that our souls have kept track of for us. So I'll go into humanity's collective consciousness, and that's the 33. That's the big album. So, so they'll put the big album on for humanity's collective consciousness, and then they'll put the needle on, and it'll start to play, and then it'll skip. And I'm like, okay, truth, what is that? So I've been able to find where we've had scratches at a global level, and the ones that we would remember in our lifetime would be when President Kennedy was assassinated.
Oh yeah, never forgot. Yeah.
You know where you were, what you were wearing, who you were with. When the Challenger blew up, when the Twin Towers came down, and COVID most recently.
Hmm.
All of those were designed to invoke sadness and fear, anxiety, anger towards whoever, whatever, and it lowers humanity's vibrational frequency.
And it did do that to
Mhm.
people.
That's what I'm saying. And so
Yeah.
the scratch on our record, because
Hmm.
it's an emotional traumatic event, and it's where collectively our souls are like, stamp as a timestamp, we're stamping it. So it's exactly like if we were playing this recording back of your show, it would say like 25 minutes, 34 seconds, 57 ten hundredths of a second, something like that. Well, it's like that also. It's like this planet, this year, this time, this moment, exactly in our soul collectiveness. So while I was playing that one day, looking at this different information, like all of a sudden this energy kind of like just sort of showed up through the collective. And I was like, oh, well, who are you? What are you? What is this about? Like like, okay, fill me in. So I discovered that we have this door that's opened, a window to
Hmm.
shift out of a paradigm that we've had limiting us all our lives. Like everyone on the planet and those who've left on the planet have had the same program running. And we have an opportunity right now to delete it collectively and choose differently out of limitation. And it called itself Done Differently. I was like, okay, so what would that kind of look like? So I was told, and it's explained to me that we have the way we think is like, we've done it this way. We've always done it this way. Our parents did it that way. Their parents before that did it that way. Like, it's not broken. We're not going to fix it. Like, how many of us have that belief with things? A lot.
Yeah.
It's not broken. Don't fix it. Don't touch it. It's okay. Like, don't make more work for me, right? Except now the choice is going to be, will this be fun for you?
Mhm.
Because we're going to do things differently. And we're going to start it with the conscious education that I'm creating for humanity. And we're going to get the kids in and get them consciously aware of things and moving forward. So right now we do things the way we've always done it, like tradition and holiday and relationships and marriage and religion and culture. Like there's these massive programs. And sort of like one day we wake up and we're like, you know what? Like, I don't know if I'm going to do that anymore. I don't know if that's a contribution. I've been doing that and it's really not fun. See, our kids are unapologetic. Gail, our
Mhm.
kids are like, no, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, but I'm not going to do it.
They don't want to have children, or they're not following the marriage children story that we were all fed.
Yes.
And I watched each generation because, I consider mine sort of the baby boomers as an older generation. And in that one, it was, it was just breaking out where women were then also doing work similar to men, but not getting paid the same, of course. Or, there was still the thing where I was going to stay home and raise my children. That's what I did. And I look at my nieces and all this other generation, and they're like, no, I'm not. Some of them are, I'm not having any children. No, I'm doing my career. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. So and then when I look at them, I'm like, what do you mean? How could you? What about grandchildren? I don't have any grandchildren here. I want grandchildren. So and it's also one of the reasons education and religion, I think, are two of the things that give us those gives a lot of people so many filters that it's hard for them to see through into the invisible world. um
Absolutely.
you and I both have not had that issue of being able to not see. We can see. It's what do we do now with this? Or for me, it's a lot of auditory, and I think you're also quite auditory. So with this new energy, which I agree with you, is something's happening out there. What does this new energy allow humanity to do? What is this bringing us to?
So this is the coolest part. All of a sudden, you get to ask yourself, does this work for me?
Mhm.
And we've been taught that to be a good person, you need to do for others. To be a good neighbor, you need to do for the, like, there are these paradigms, good, bad, right, and wrong, polarity that are out there, and they're really strong. And this is our opportunity to break free and actually choose what works for us. That's what our kids are doing. You know what? Because I was never asked. I never had a discussion with my family about you're going to get married if you don't want to get married, if you want to have kids, if you don't have kids. It was you're going to school, you're getting a degree, you're getting a job, you're getting a boyfriend, you're going to get engaged, you're going to get married, you're going to get a house, and then you're going to have children. And it was like in that order. Like that would be the good girl way of doing it.
Mhm.
And there was no talk of not doing it that way. And everyone fed into it. Oh, how long have you been dating? Oh, when are you getting engaged? When you get engaged? When you get engaged? When are you getting married? Oh, you're engaged now. When are you getting married? When you get married? Are you getting married soon? Do you have a date? Pick it a date. What's the date? What's that? What year? What year would you doing that? Okay, great. Now you're married. You got the house. When are you having kids? When are you having kids, huh? How many kids are you gonna have? Do you got one? Are you trying? Are you trying
That's
to
my favorite one.
get
What
married?
do you do for a living? Or what do you do? And I would never be able to answer that. And even today, if you ask me, what do you do? I would not be able to answer that because I'm kind of a what's that saying? Jack of all trades, master of none. So
Yes.
I feel sort of like, because I felt such a pressure so many years of my friends all having, they became therapists, and they all have a title, and they worked at a college, and they work at colleges and all this. And I don't have any of those. I've just been a lot of different things that I tried out, but I never took any of them as my one thing. I opened up my own catering business. I built a commercial kitchen. I fed thousands and thousands of meals. Then I opened up in my teenage years, I had my first produce stand and I sold produce and I had a store and I loved being in retail. I'm just saying, I manage real estate. I do rentals. I do paranormal things. I'm a subject in psychic phenomena. I just, I wrote a book, but I haven't published it. I have a podcast now. I don't have any like, and so I always feel like I'm going to be going to a reunion, which will happen right, in fact, a week after this show airs, and going to this reunion and seeing all of us together because we're all turning 70. Part of those questions all come to me, like these people I haven't seen, do they see me as the Gail I was when we were in junior high? And what insecurities do I have around that? And all the things that are coming up in my mind and seeing them and thinking, oh yeah, I'm so fat now, I'm gonna see them as this fat person. And I'm just, I find it a really interesting thing to put your mind to knowing and seeing, who do you feel you're presenting to these people you haven't seen some of them in, 40 years or something. So I
There's no triggers there whatsoever.
ah!
Not a single one, Gail. Nope. Nope. You only mentioned like about 100. Yeah, it's that whole thing. So I women are coming to me and they're like, look, I do grieving differently. I'm like, really? How do you do that? And she's now an apprentice of mine, Bethany Sheldon, and she does grieving differently. And she lost her son, and it was
Uh,
an accident. And it was this, like, she was like, not sure she wanted to be here anymore, like, because one son, son and mother, I have one son and mother, like, I get it.
I get it.
And she started to work with me and we got this connection with him. And now he's with her all the time.
Mhm.
Now she's working with other moms who've lost children. And so she's doing grieving differently. And it's from grief to gratefulness and the growth part in between. And she's really phenomenal. So I have money done differently. I've got telepathy with toddlers. I have a gentleman who telepathy, he communicated with his 3 daughters when they were really little and they couldn't speak yet. He teaches other people how to do that, how to have telepathy with their kids, do telepathic messages. So there's a lot of this fun stuff that's showing up, like how to see without using your eyes, how to hear with awareness without your ears, how to know without knowing. And it's, the question is like, would you be willing or would you like to give it a try? And what happens is, Gail, this is so exciting, is that once someone has a visual experience of doing something differently, it's kind of like that, don't ask, because once you know, you can't unknow.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's like when you went to kindergarten and you were taught to count and you went 18, 19, 20, erasers, pencils, markers, paper clips, clothespins. Then you got to first grade and they taught you to add. So now you're doing 10 and 10 is 20 and 40 and 40 is 80 and 50 and 50 is 100. Do you ever go back to counting? Like 88, 89, 90? No,
Mhm.
because you'd have to choose against yourself, right?
Mhm.
Like you would have to become unconscious on ways of doing things. And so that's what happens is once you know, a much easier, faster, quicker, way more enjoyable, tons more fun, totally abundant way of doing things, like you can actually then choose that. Because what I have found is the frequency of the paradigm that we're getting rid of, because this is going to be a movement,
Mhm.
is the, how you doing today? Good. How's everything going? Fine. When did our good and fine become the best part of our day? Like, do we hear people say, oh my God, I had like the most amazing day? Let me tell you about it. No, we don't have that anymore because good and fine is good enough, right now. But we're done with that. That whole paradigm, it's not broke, we're not going to fix it. We've been doing it that way. Our parents did it that way. Their parents before that. No, that's old. That's old school. That's old school. Now we're like, look, we're going to do things differently. It's going to be way more fun. It's going to be way more exciting. It's going to be way more enjoyable. So that's what we're doing. So that's the done differently energy that popped out of the collective consciousness. It's like, I'm here, I'm ready, come play me, come play my song on the album. I'm like, all right, done differently. I'm gonna play your song. Here we go.
I love you using albums, needles, scratches, and 45s and long playing records as a way of explaining something that's sometimes difficult for other people to understand. That's really a very good, simple way of describing how the things get marked in your karma or the things. It's a really, really nice way to describe that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the guides. It's my
ah,
angelic realm. And they made reference to Akashic records being the records that they're showing me, the soul's record and
yes.
humanity's record. I was like, man, you guys are good. Because
So
I don't have words for it.
So tell our audience, how do you serve and support people, and tell them about um, how they would your website. There's things here about we'll discuss my last question about your free gift and how people can find you and consult. But first, can you tell them a little bit more about what you're doing and how you're serving and supporting people in this area?
Yeah, I would love to. So I work with people all around the world,
Mhm.
and I don't do poverty consciousness. So with that, people feel very comfortable coming to me. So the angelic realm has set up the price of whatever the service is. We'll work together for 4 months to start off with. Then you can choose to continue, and many people do because people will start off as a client and they end up being a friend. Which is part of the whole thing. Like, if I'm not having fun, I have to fix it. So
Mhm.
all of my programs, what I do, the things we have, it's all awareness. And it's in a way that like there's no judgment in there. So like I support people through like the darkest times of their lives because there's a lie in there, Gail, that they've bought as true. And that's what has stuck them their whole life. And I'm able to go in and go, okay, yeah, that's not actually true. Like, let me tell you what's true about it. And when we shift it, it's like a 180-degree turn. And they're like, oh my God, like it's not a wrongness, it's a strongness. I'm like, yeah, yes, now you get it. And where they had been wrong, that's a low vibrational frequency. And where they're
Mhm.
right or strong is a higher vibrational frequency. And that's where the empowerment comes in. So it's part energy work and then it's part empowerment when I'm able to, consciously explain to them, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this is what your team is saying. Hey, this is the truth about it. And it just blows. They're like, you're speaking my language. I'm like, yeah, I'm in your reality. Like, I love when I'm at like Dunkin' Donuts or I'm at Starbucks and I'm getting a drink and the woman's like, how are you doing today? I'm like, pretty good. I'm like, I'm clearing out a lot of stuff. She goes, I just did that at my house. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm in your reality. You know, so yeah, it just kind of had like our energy fields just kind of mix, when you're in public with people. And so it infuriates my son because I'll say something. He go, I just got a call. And I go, I know. And he goes, stop saying I know, mom.
Well, I find my
You know
children are
everything.
always the ones to.
Oh my goodness. This has been so much fun. Yeah. Love this. I love your energy, Gail. You are so fun.
Well, this podcast for our listeners, it has a life of its own that I have nothing to do with this. And all I'm doing is showing up because I continually have guests that just are sent to me or appear somehow. I don't know how, and they're just there. And I often have to say to them, neither of us sometimes remember how we even got connected to be on the show. And I let go of this feeling that the show is supposed to be some big thing where I have zillions of listeners or any of this, and then just said, it's whatever the show is and whoever it reaches, just as long as it does something positive to help at least one person anywhere in any place. And now when I see that we reach people all over the world, anything is possible. And I'm so I have said a few times on the show that sometimes I feel guilty that like maybe I'm getting more out of these interviews than I could have ever possibly imagined, and I've made some of the most wonderful friends that I know that will be in my life, for years to come. And I've even actually gone and stayed in homes of podcasters I've had where we've never actually met except on the show, and they invite me and I go to Colorado, and next thing I know I'm staying at Donna Ribadow's house, and I'm with Sean McNamara, and we're going up to the mountains. And it's such a beautiful form of being able to also meet and share not necessarily all like-minded things, but interesting critical thinking topics and things that you know I'm sure this was the same for you as a child, and as for me as a child, that in our group of girlfriends or however it was in school, I always felt different. I never felt like I fit in with everything correct. And now I'm realizing, but it's taking me up to 70 years old to realize that it's okay to be me and who I am. And it's also okay to say, I might be a little different.
I love it. And when you go to your reunion, you're going to be that frequency.
I hope so. So
Me, myself, and I.
so before I talk about the gifts that you offer, I was wondering if you had anything you wanted to tell, any kind of events or things coming up or anything, and also if you could actually say your website and say it slowly for our listeners who don't necessarily look. This will all be in the description on YouTube, but for the listeners that are at home listening with their headsets and have a pen or their computer, they can write down your website. So if you could just say that slowly for them.
Sure. And when I'm on listening to someone and I need to do it, I will text myself someone else's website. So it's my first and last name. So it's Susan, Susan, and then my last name, Shatzer, Shat as in tiger, Z as in zebra, ER.com.
Beautiful. And there they'll be able to find the shows and things we've been talking about. And they'll also find out more about you and all the different things that you've done. And I had a great time going through and watching and listening to different pieces that you had there to offer. So I noticed you also offer a free gift, and it says a book a no-cost consultation. So I was wondering if you could tell our listeners about this as well. And now that we've met, I am going to sign up for my free consultation when we hang up. Because I saw it's very nice on the website. You show the dates, the times, what's the availability. It was very simple.
Yeah, it is super simple because it just has to be for me.
Yes.
There's no complication for me. Yeah, so it's a free consultation. It's a no cost consultation, and we'll get together. And you can kind of have like someone without judgment who has the ability to go in and to see what's happening. Like, let's take a look at what your greatest challenge is, what's your biggest problem, what are the issues, what are your struggles? Because hidden inside your biggest problems, truly are your greatest possibilities.
I believe that because I feel like all the different challenges I've ever had in my life that some people say, oh my God, how did you make it through that? Or how could you talk to those persons? I always feel those are the things that made me grow as a person. All the things that we considered like challenging or difficult, whether it's bodily problems or family problems, fine, whatever those things are, when we take the lesson that we learn from it and we grow from it, we don't, and don't put it in a negative box, just put it in a teaching box. It's part of learning. Uh, so I'm wondering now, is this something that this is are you doing your show anymore, or are the episodes the finished, or is the when do you know this, the film with the polar I can't remember, my brain is,
Pillars of Power.
yeah, pillars of power, polar of power, pillars of power.
It's all polar, everything's
Right, okay.
we're in
When
the Arctic zone.
Yes, any idea when that's going to come out, or any info you can tell us, like check it on Netflix or it'll be out on this, or whatever information you have on that. It looks like a very exciting piece of film work.
It is amazing. It is beyond what I had ever possibly envisioned or imagined. So I'm one of the creative directors, I mean, creative producers with it because I have the experience in
Mhm.
producing the TV show. We were doing the TV show up until COVID. When COVID hit, I couldn't get my director down from New York. We were matching up. We were working with realtors that had $1 million homes. And so we would film in these homes with the realtor. Then it would go up on our streaming platform. And the homeowner would say, hey, would you film by this fireplace? Would you film in the new kitchen? Would you film outside with the golf course? So we would honor the homeowner and do our film segments in the different locations. And we'd also do one of the whole house for the realtor. Well, we were selling homes unseen on set. People were, our viewers were going, you know what? I could have Thanksgiving at that table. Like we could do that. Let's get that house. Like it was like just the craziest things were like showing up. But the when COVID hit, the homeowners were like, look, realtors, we don't want anyone in our home. I get it. I couldn't get
Mm.
my director down. The my clients that we were filming were like, look, how are we going to film with a mask and we have to be 6 feet away? So we had to like really pivot and go in a different direction. So that had to come to a stop. And we haven't actually gone back into like a housing situation where that would be needed again. So we don't have that partnership yet because the housing industry is completely different than it was in 2017, 18, 19. So I don't have a point of view about it. Like I'm open, it's possible we could do it. Like what else would like to show up? But then there's also this element of like, hey, now that we're doing things differently, like let's do education differently because I'm going to tell you, Gail, and all of your listeners, that everything else has evolved. Our transportation has evolved in the last 100 years. The medical industry, our communication system has evolved. Everything's evolved. We've got satellites, we've got satellite internet, but we're
Technology.
still in our seats, raising our hands and waiting for the bell to ring. There's something about our education system that has not evolved. And it's our time to do this. So maybe some of your listeners are ready. Maybe they've got ideas because I am not an administrator. I do not do like that kind of an aspect of it, but I can do content and whatnot. But we're here. We're here. We're ready to go. You
Actually, I just heard something. I just had a friend over who became my friend because her husband had heard me talking on New Thinking Aloud with my friend Jeffrey Mishlove. And so they found me and sent me an email, and I ended up having his wife on my podcast, and we ended up becoming friends, and that we play games and have dinner together. And so when she came here a couple of days ago, she just said, I'm almost finished. I've written a children's book, and it's all about the light and the child. I can't describe the book because of course she just told me about it and I haven't read it, but it was really a children's book describing how light and being light is the most powerful thing, and it takes you through the sadness, this is how I understood what she said, and the darkness, and the different, your nightmare, or the different things that children might have difficulty with, that you always have your light and your lightness. And I thought, what a beautiful way, because when I was speaking to book um publishing people and companies, and they were saying things that the two most popular books to publish are children's books and how-to books. Those are the easy ones to sell and whatever. And then it occurred to me that she's giving spiritual advice and information and speaking it in the level of a child to a child. And she's a very sparkly human being herself that looks 20 years younger. And she and has no children. And she has a great concept here. And this sounds like she's on the path that you're saying is our future, which is to educate children and younger people ahead of time, beforehand, because those things are not taught in school. Relationships, consciousness, love, spirituality, these are not taught there. And the idea of there are different, I've had a few different guests who are working on that kind of thing in trying to get things into the school systems. And some are a few are successful, but I do think children's books would be that might be, you might know enough people that are in the literary fields that that would be a great thing, doing a whole line of kids spiritual, relating to the bully, or however to handle those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, we used to carry our books in our book bag and we'd have lockers. Well, they don't have books anymore.
That's disgusting.
The kids, would get tablets or laptops and they would just carry the laptop around with them. Well, wouldn't it be cool if we did school VR in a virtual reality? So the kids are on the Mayflower coming over, landing at Plymouth Rock, going to Plymouth Plantation. Yeah. And they're on the whale watch doing the whale. Like, there's so much education we can do through a VR system that we could, you know, kind
Very
of
interesting.
this.
My husband made the software for the first VR.
I
And
didn't know that.
yes, he was at the MIT Media Lab there in your Massachusetts,
Yeah.
probably when you were living there, because he spent 8 years there with Marvin Minsky. And this is what, and he also he did the first software for his friend Jaron Lanier, who's the one who coined the word virtual reality. And he put the glove on Yoko Ono's hand when she went to try the virtual headset on, but her hand was so tiny that she couldn't fit it into the glove. But my husband was the one there putting her hand in the glove, and she was, trying out the software he was producing for that. So if you ever think about that, you can think of my husband. He might be able to help you out in the virtual world. You never know. He also
Wow.
made two apps that I highly recommend you might not have seen.
Yes.
Um, they're they're Russell Targ's app, and I don't know if you're familiar with Russell Targ. He's one of the founders of the remote viewing program that was taught at Stanford Research for the military and the CIA back in the 70s,
Yeah.
and a very dear friend of ours as well. So he hired David to make these two apps for people to be able to practice and learn their ESP abilities. And it's a form that it was originally a big wood box with three color lights on it that the military and the people were using to train them. And he brought the box here to our house and said to my husband, "Can you turn this into software?" And he did. So it's called ESP Trainer, I think, and it's 99 cents. It was free for many, many years. And then his newest one, and I was beta tester for both of these, so I participated in the creating of this as that part. And the other one is called if I could probably show you a picture here. And the other is called Stargate ESP. So Stargate ESP has a little icon of an eye with a world inside it.
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll know you're on the right one when you hit that one. And then the other one, the ESP trainer, let me see where that one is. Here it is. You'll see a colored icon of four colors. Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring, there we go. So you see four colors here on your phone. I know
Yes.
through this, and you have on all of these, you have a certain amount of trials, and your idea is to pick the color where the picture is hiding behind. The thing that you learn about this, which I found fascinating when I was playing with it, is that you see how your intuitive mind functions, and you start to learn that it's not when you're concentrating and thinking hard, it's the thing that fleets by so quickly. And the more you pay attention to that fleeting thought or message you hear, the louder and then it becomes. Like with you, you started knowing that coming into your body. So you've been working with that for a long time. But for people who are not familiar with it, this is a good form to be able to understand. So, like at first, I was noticing every time I'd pick the color where I thought the picture was, it would always be the next picture ahead. So I would hit red, but yellow would come up, but the next one would be red. So I started to see that I was picking way too, so I could be able to start to discern in my mind which was the one to be picking. So this is a very good, it's a simple exercise, nothing difficult. The other one, the ESP trainer, you're actually given information to pick about the photo you're going to be shown. So it's a different part of the brain. You're using a different type of thinking with that, I guess. And you're saying, is there water in this picture? Yes or no? Are there trees in here? Yes or no? And then the end of answering the questions, they show you four pictures and they say, which one of these do you think is the one we're going to show you? So this one's a little bit more involved that way, where the other one's just strictly a colorful one. And the other one thing about that I want to say, and I'll stop talking, is that children love the color ESP one with the four colors, because they could be, we've used it at airports where kids were being like unruly or something. We say, oh, hey, you want to try this? And then when they hear the ding and the picture pops up, and because kids can do it so much faster and quicker than an adult who's thinking. Anyhow, I just wanted to share this in case you post our show and you have listeners who might want to know about these things. It's a nice little
Absolutely.
tool.
Yes.
Yes, and it's 99 cents. It's not going to break the bank or anything.
But it also is a tool,
It's a
you know,
tool and a
tool
teaching
in the
and
race.
learning tool.
Yeah. And you want those to be in your toolbox.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
it may not be now, but it may be in the near future where, you're something's going to come up and yeah. And wouldn't you be kind of cool if you knew about it ahead of time?
Yeah,
You had an awareness,
right.
sort of
So
guided you in a different direction.
exactly. So I guess we're winding down, and what I always do here with my guests is I ask them if there's anything else they would like to share or speak about, or any words of wisdom, or anything they'd like to say to our listeners at the end of our show here now.
Perfect. Thank you, Gail, so much. I would love for everyone to know that you've never done anything wrong,
Mhm.
like at all. So, what happened was before you got here, you pre assigned your experiences. You were like, my soul, this body, this family, because you picked your parents, are going to have these experiences for your soul's evolution. What happens is you agree to receive the experiences and other people agree to give them to you. So, this is how we create our own reality. So, it's not that you've done anything wrong. It's like they were playing their role and you were the receiver and you already pre ordered this.
I believe that.
You did such a good job pre-ordering an amazing experience. And what that does is that empowers them like immediately. They're like, oh, okay, because you can stop the game, you can close the curtain, call the show over, take your bow, receive your standing ovation, and exit stage left. And then go to create a new show, invite your new characters. Like you don't have to stay in the show that you've been in your whole life. And it's that easy. You've never done anything wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful piece of wisdom. Thank you very much for being here today. I would love to have you on again another time because I feel like there's more for us to share.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about conscious education.
Yes. So
More.
I'm going to close our show out here. I want to thank Susan for joining us. Just hang in as I give our closeout. Uh, I want to thank all you listeners for joining us here today. I want to thank you for liking, subscribing, sharing. Love getting the comments. They really mean a lot to me. You know that you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and numerous other media sites. So have a very wonderful day, a wonderful week, and please remember, share your stories because stories can heal. Bye.